Where's Mike?
Surprise!
Jeez, what are you doing?
Hey, man. I was surprised because like a surprise party.
No, we're doing like party games.
Oh, yeah. Well, then why are there balloons?
Because it's a green screen. We put up where we want. Look, it's Lincoln.
Snap. That's right. It's time to talk about party games.
Classic cold open.
Classical trivia. I mean, we don't have any of those.
Suspense.
We do have a trivia game, actually. Suspense,
You know.
deception, all sorts of things. These are games you like to play with a big group in kind of a lighter game environment.
Casual, a little bit of casual situation.
Yeah.
Party game is one of those things that's kind of hard. Like, what's a party game? What's not a party game? It's kind of up to individuals.
Many things can be considered.
Yeah, but nonetheless, this is going to be our top 10 party games.
Right.
Our number 10 is a pure convention game. This is a game I want to play at conventions and basically nowhere else, because that is Happy Salmon. Happy Salmon you need a lot of space for because you need a whole table, everyone's gonna be standing around it, and you gotta be running around that table. This is a game where everyone's gonna have a card, and that card's gonna tell them to do something. It's be like fist bump or Happy Salmon, which you go, or like high five or different things like that. And basically you have to look around and try and find someone who has the same kind of card. So you're like fist bump, fist bump. You see someone else, you go, oh, boom, fist bump, and then you can draw another card. And so everyone is constantly, it's kind of like Pit. If you ever tried Pit, everyone's yelling out different stuff as you're trying to quickly trade stuff. It kind of has a similar feel to that. But this game is just wacky. There's times where you have to like switch places with people. So you're like, switch, so then people are running around the table and you have to Happy Salmon with someone, then you have to fist bump someone else, high five someone else. And it's just crazy. It's ridiculous and it's so much fun. And at a convention space, it's just a grand old time, and it's just pure fun. There's no strategy at all. You're just having a good old time. That's Happy Salmon. It's number 10.
So number 9 is a game that simulates trying to pitch an infomercial. It's But Wait, There's More. So in this game, in every round, you'll have an item, like a bowling ball. And then you'll be given a couple of different weird things that it does that are very special. And you have to put one down. And then you try to explain that, hey, this is a bowling ball that cleans your kids. And you're like, okay, how do I try to spin that a bowling ball should ever be used for this purpose? And then the great thing is that halfway through, because all infomercials always have a, but wait, there's more to this, and you have to flip over a new random trait that you do not know what's coming. So not only does this bowling ball clean your kids, it also can train your dog. And that's a great thing about using a bowling ball, is that you roll the ball, the kids get ran over by it, the dog chases it, which trains the dog, and that's why a bowling ball should be used for none of these. But do not do that, by the way. This is a bad idea. But that's the idea of the game, is that you are trying to find ways for these things to make some sort of sense, and it's just really, really fun. That's why it's our number 9.
Number 8 is very, very fancy. We bring out our monocles and our top hats because this is Dinosaur Tea Party. This is a very simple game, kind of like Guess Who, where everyone has a dinosaur. There's a big tableau of dinosaurs out, and everyone has a dinosaur that they are, and then you're asking questions about the other dinosaurs around the table. So you're like, Mike over there, do you have your teeth showing today, sir? And on his card, it'll tell different traits that you can ask. Like, you can ask if they have stripes, or they have spots, or what color the background is, or if they're in a hat, if they have food in front of them. And you basically are trying to ask these questions around these tables and try to suss out which dinosaurs everyone is. And then if you guess correctly on someone, you'll get a sugar cube, because Dinosaur Tea Party, you know? And you're trying to get 3 sugar cubes. And that's the entirety of the game, but it's kind of like Guess Who, if Guess Who was good, honestly, and made into much, much more of a game. It's got really, really wonderful art. This is a game that's like really, really fun with kids, but also like if you're a bunch of adults and you just get into like the fanciness of the whole thing, it's really, really silly and really fun, but especially if you have kids, Dinosaur Tea Party is an absolute banger. It's our number 8.
So number 7 is a game called Decrypto, which is a really interesting team-based kind of deduction game, where if you're on a team, you're gonna have one person who's basically trying to guess a sequence of 3 different words that are gonna be in a certain order. And then their teammates are gonna be writing down clues that then you can guess the sequence. Like, oh, I think it's words 1, 2, and 4. And these words are going to remain the same for each team on either side. They'll have their own set of 4 words throughout the game. So we're writing down clues that are going to say, okay, this clearly pertains to mouse, this pertains to bowling ball again, and it pertains to milk. So I'm going to be giving clues for that. But the other team is going to be listening into the clues you're giving. And as you give more and more clues for milk, it might become very hard to not make it very obvious that word number 4 is milk, or things like that. Or this clue, even if I don't know that it's milk specifically, I can guess that this is going to pertain to the 3rd word. And so as the other team, you can try to intercept the sequence. You're like, they give these clues are similar to ones before. I think it's 2, 3, 1. And if they manage to guess that sequence correctly, they get to intercept the message. So it's this cool thing of the longer you kind of play, the more clues you give to these words, the more obvious you kind of make it. So as a team member, I need to make my clues fairly obscure, but I do need my teammate to still get the sequence. Now they know the words, but if I'm too weird with it, they might confuse, what's what. So I think it's just a really interesting dynamic that happens there with that kind of team play. So Decrypto is one that, as I first sat down, I was like, what is this? And as we were playing, like, this is a really neat, pretty unique type of game to us. That's why it's on our list.
One thing about us is our family as a whole doesn't really play many games. Our siblings do, but like our parents don't and stuff like that. But one game that I feel like you can basically pull out with anyone, even if they're not gamers, is Wits and Wagers, and that's our number 6. Wits and Wagers is just a trivia game, but it's great because it's a trivia game where you don't actually need to know anything about the trivia being asked. This is kind of like a Price is Right game where there's going to be a numerical question asked, like how many potatoes did Americans eat in 2007? No one knows the answer to that unless you happen to be playing with a bunch of potato farmers. And so everyone's going to throw out different numbers. Like I think 10,000, I think 100 million, I don't know. And then those numbers are going to be arranged from highest to lowest. And then everyone has to bet on which number they think is correct. And you do not have to bet on yourself. You're like, oh, I feel like Mary over there, her father's a potato farmer, so she's gonna know this. So I'm gonna bet on her answer because she probably has a better idea than I do. And then you then reveal who had the closest without going over, so Price is Right rules. And then if you bet on that one, you get money. And that's the game. So it's brilliant because all the questions are crazy questions that no one will actually know for the most part. And then you can just bet on who you think is gonna be the most correct. And it's awesome because everyone can be involved. You can also play on big teams with infinite amounts of people. Wits and Wagers is great. There's a billion different versions. Pick anyone. They're all basically the same. They're all great. It's our number 6.
Number 5 is a Spiel des Jahres winner, and for good reason, because it's very simple and accessible and easy to play. It's called Just One. This is a very simple, kind of like, to me, like a classic idea of a party game. Very minimal rules, can play with a lot of folks. And in this one, what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna have one person who's gonna guess, and then everyone else is going to get a word that we need this person to guess. And then we're all gonna choose, similar to kind of I was talking about Decrypto, a word that relates to the clue in some way. So if it's bowling ball, I might say pin or something like that, or alley, or nachos, and you're gonna try to come up with a word. But the problem is if I come up with pin and 3 other people all come up with pin, we have to erase our answers. So ultimately, the only clues that are given for that word are the ones that were not repeated. So you have to have just one. You can write a 1-word clue. So there's that fun trick of, I need to think of a word that relates, but it can't be something else someone else would think of. And you have that fun thing where like everyone sort of goes left of field, and then everyone made that weird reference. You're like, why did we all write shoe guy or clown shoe or whatever it might be for this thing? You can kind of keep it simple. So it's just really fun, but that's really the whole game. It's super duper simple. You can kind of play it with everyone, which makes it a great party game. So that's Just One.
Telestrations is number 4 because it's just silly fun. Drawing games are fun because I'm an artist, and even I'm not good at drawing in these kind of situations where you have to draw quickly, you're drawing a bunch of weird stuff. This is a game where it's essentially like telephone, but with drawing. So basically everyone's gonna get a prompt, and they're gonna have to draw that prompt, and then everyone passes their pad to the next person. That person looks at that drawing and goes, what the heck is that? And then they have to write down what they think it is. So like, I don't know, bear juggling bowling balls, and then that then gets passed to the next person, and then they read that prompt and go, bear juggling bowling balls, okay, and then they have to draw that, and then it gets passed, and the person has to try and figure out what their drawing was, and basically you go until it gets back around to the original people, and then you basically just read them out and have fun. There's points in this game. I honestly couldn't tell you how it scores, because we've never actually played this game for keeps. It's always just been, let's draw a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of prompts, have some fun, and just laugh at what everyone came up with. It's so much fun. It's just great. Telestrations is awesome.
So Wavelength is our number 3. It's a really interesting game where you'll be given kind of two things that are kind of on the opposite ends of a spectrum. You might have square and round, and then you're gonna randomly generate a space where between 1 and 14, your number is 3, which means it's much more on the round side than it is square. So now I have to come up with a clue that will get my teammates to guess right at a 3. So it's not a 1, the most round being a bowling ball, and it's not the most square, a square. So I have to find something that's mostly round, but not 100%. So I might say like egg, because it's definitely on the spheroid side of the world, but it's not a ball or a bowling ball. So once I give my one-word clue, my teammates will then say, okay, it's between round and square. How round is an egg? A 14 being the most square, 1 being the most round. Eggs are like maybe a 5 or a 6, and you get points the closer you are to being right on the mark. And then the other team can basically make a simple guess of like, I think if they say it's a 6, the other team says, I think that it's more round than that. I think it's gonna be lower than a 6 or higher than a 6 if you think it's gonna be more square. And so there's a way to kind of steal some points there. It's super duper simple, really fun. And it gives this great thing of giving those two kind of opposites attract, and then you having to come up with like, what is the clue that is the most 10 between round and square, or light and dark, or whatever it might be. So it's just a really interesting kind of twist on a game that's really fun to play kind of on teams, and really just think of kind of working it backward. We're like, based off of these, what clue can I make that fits that? It's just really interesting. That is Wavelength.
Number 2 is a game that kind of takes a bunch of little stuff that I like in games that ultimately I don't like and puts them into a game that I love. I love the concept of a game like Spyfall, but I don't really like that game. I like Dixit to a degree, but it's not my favorite game. Detective Club is a combination of Dixit and Spyfall. Basically what this is a social deduction game where you have these big, beautiful tarot-sized cards that have really kind of surreal Dixit-like art on them. And there's one person who's like the lead investigator, and then they are going to look at their cards, pick a card, and then write down a clue that has to do with that card. So if it's like this big tea scene, you might be like teapot. And you have all these pads of paper, and you're gonna write that clue on all those pads except for one. And then you're gonna shuffle them and then give those clues out to everyone. So everyone is gonna have the clue except for one person. And then everyone has to look at their cards, find something that goes along with that clue to the best of their ability, and then put it out onto the table. And you're gonna everyone's gonna put out 2 clues. What I don't like about games like Spyfall is a lot of times, especially in the very beginning of the game, you have no information if you're the trader, and so you're just like guessing. But the beautiful thing about Detective Club is then everyone has to explain how their cards pertain to the clue. But the cool thing is before everyone starts explaining, the lead investigator goes, the clue was teapot. So now the trader knows what the clue was. And then they have to go around and explain their cards. And so now the trader's like, okay, how do I make this work for teapot? How do I make this work for teapot? But then as you're putting out cards, the trader can look around at other cards and go, okay, someone's putting out cups, someone's putting out water, someone's putting out this. Does it have to do with drinks? Does it have to do with something else? So you have other information to go off of, and then you can hide. Not to mention, sometimes you know what the clue is and none of your cards pertain to that clue. So you actually look really suspicious. It just works so well, and it goes over so well. I love Detective Club. Please try it. It's so darn good. If you like the idea of Spyfall but didn't really work for you, please try Detective Club. It worked for me.
So number 1 is great. It's Pictomania. This is a drawing game where you don't really have time or a need to be a great artist, which is something that we talked about Telestrations being really fun, that everyone can sort of participate. So in this one, you're gonna play through different rounds that become more and more difficult, and you're given a clue of something that you need to draw. And the whole twist is you need to be able to draw it well enough that everyone else can guess your clue. It's very important that it is guessable. But the quicker you go, and stop your drawing, the quicker you can start guessing what other people are drawing, even as they're still drawing them. So for the first round, I might have bowling ball, and I have to draw a bowling ball. That's pretty simple and quick. I draw that down, then I start guessing what other people have been drawing. But then in a future round, the categories on these cards from which you get your clue become more and more convoluted. So in the first round, it might be bowling ball, pin, or something that relates to a general area. But then like the third or the fourth round, when the difficulty is higher, it might be a list of just different types of balls. So it might be bowling ball, basketball, baseball. And I'm like, well, those are all fairly similar. And if I'm drawing very quickly, pretty easy to make look like each other. So it becomes more and more hard to differentiate your clue from the rest of the clues in your little list. And I still need to draw as quickly as I can, finish drawing as fast as I can, and start guessing, because if I guess quicker than other people and I guess correctly, I get more points. But if people can't guess what my drawing is, I'm gonna lose points. So you have to be accurate and you have to be quick, and that's just a really fun balance. And the difficulty of the game ramps up really well. So in the first game, you think like, I'm Leonardo da Vinci, I got this, I can draw anything. And by the fourth round, it's just all despair, but it's really, really fun. Pictomania is fantastic. So that was our top 10 party games we like to play in sort of a party-like.
We play a lot of conventions, that kind of stuff, you know,
Exactly
a lot of those
right.
things. So that's our top 10 party games. Down in the comments below, let us know your top 10 party games, your favorite party games.
Cool.
Which one do you like? Or maybe you still like party games. Like, I want to talk about TI4. I'm like, that's a party game.
Some people party with TI4.
Yeah, dudes, freaking get wrecked.
That's right. If you want to find out about more party games, you can check the party game listing on BoardGameGeek. That's how we found these games.
Yeah, indeed. And let us know what kind of topics you want us to cover next. And I think that's it. So until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're Brothers Murph.
We'll see you in the next top 10.